Welcome to session 33 of Communication Electronics, that is Digital Pulse Modulation. In this particular session, let us learn the learning objectives. We are going to study or understand the meaning of pulse code modulation, which in short call it as PCM. We are going to understand the steps involved in pulse code modulation. We are going to understand the advantages of pulse code modulation over other modulation techniques, the disadvantages of pulse code modulation over other techniques, and the applications of pulse code modulation. Now, let us understand the session outcomes. After the complete of this session, we should be able to know the meaning of pulse code modulation, which in short call it as PCM, advantages and disadvantages of PCM, and the applications of pulse code modulation. The prerequisites for this particular session is we should know the meaning of communication. Communication means what? Sending the information from one place to another by through some various modes. Then we should know what is modulation. What is modulation? Varying the certain parameters like the amplitude or any other parameters of the information signal in accordance with various parameters. It could be the amplitude or the frequency or the phase or even the pulse also. Then we should know what is a digital communication and of course binary bits. What are the terms used in this particular session? Pulse, code, modulation, quantizer, encoding, and sampling. Now let us enter into the topic called as a pulse code modulation. Pulse code modulation is a method that is used to convert an analog signal into the digital signal so that a modified analog signal can be transmitted through the digital communication network. Actually, PCM is in binary form. So there will be only two possible states, that is high and low, wherein symbolically we write it as 1 and 0. We can also get back our analog signal by demodulation. Pulse code modulation process is actually done in three steps. They are sampling, quantization, and coding. There are two specific types of pulse code modulation. They are differential pulse code modulation. In short, we call it as DPCM. And the second one is adaptive differential pulse code modulation. In short, abbreviated as ADPCM. Now let us see the basic block diagram of pulse code modulation. As it is explained in the previous slide, in sampling, we are using pulse amplitude modulator sampler, that is PAM, which converts continuous amplitude signal into discrete time continuous signal with this block diagram. This is the block diagram. So the input for the PAM is a continuous time, continuous analog signal, wherein the output is the discrete time, continuous amplitude, pulse amplitude modulated signal. This is the output. So that is how it is. Now the second step is quantization. Quantization is done by the second block. What is quantization? It is, remember, the input for the quantizer is a discrete time continuous amplitude signal. That PAM signal is now converted into PCM signal. And finally, it is fed to an encoder circuit, where the encoder circuit encodes these signals into the binary bits and it is sent to the output stage. Let us see what are the advantages of PCM. Pulse code modulation is very convenient for long distance communication. It is having higher transmitter efficiency and it is having a higher noise immunity. Remember, noise immunity means what? It reduces very less amount of noise in the channel. That is one of the biggest advantage. The disadvantage of pulse code modulation is PCM requires large bandwidth as compared to analog system. So why do we call it as a disadvantage? Because remember, more is the bandwidth required, less is the number of channels that we can accommodate in the given bandwidth. And the second, another disadvantage is encoding, decoding, and quantization circuit of PCM is very complex. Now let us see the application of PCM. PCM is used in satellite transmitting system. It is used in space communication. It is used in telephone. The compact disc, which was used previously once upon a time in a computer system, was making use of pulse code modulation. Now let us have a recap of what is PCM. We understood what the basic understanding of pulse code modulation, advantages and disadvantages of PCM, and where PCM is used, that is applications of pulse code modulation. Now let us see various multiple choice questions. Pulse code modulation belongs to, remember, it is a digital communication. Which one is an essential block in PCM generation? It is encoder. The disadvantage of PCM, as mentioned in this session, is it requires more bandwidth. Which is one form of PCM? It is a DPCM. Thank you very much.